Laser Devices basically has two generations of lights and lasers and combinations of both that fit the USP and the USP Compact. I like to describe the first generation, which is what you see in front of you, as kind of semi-custom molded to fit very specific firearms with different activations. And the first generation is slightly heavier, slightly bigger than the second generation. Light output, laser output, all that performance I believe is exactly the same, just by reading brochures from Laser Devices. Now, the first generation are called the Blast, the Laze Tac, and the BA6. The second generation is the Blast 2 and the Laze Tac 2. The Blast is what you see in front of you. The Blast units are laser and light combinations. The Laze Tac units are either just a light or a laser. And the BA6 from the first generation is specifically a laser. Now, first generation activation. Move that out of the way. Is a simple, this button is not spring loaded. Turn this off. So you push it down and it stays on until you push it back up. There is no upward direction once it's in the off position. And that's like that on both sides. That's what first generation activation is for the Laser Devices stuff. Nothing special there. If one of those is down, it's always going to be on. So if you push down the left one, or excuse me, the right one, then you push down the left one, and then you put up the right one, it's still going to stay on. They override each other in the on position. Now the Blast unit has, you can choose what combination of power you want. Has the off position laser, laser and flashlight only. Pretty self-explanatory there. On the second generation Blast 2, those controls are located on the opposite side, which I think is better for right-handed users because you don't want to take your grip off the gun to change this. So I think it's better that they put it on the left-hand side for the second generation. But there is no kill switch on the second generation, which I thought was strange. Now, activation on the second generation, and dang it, I just forgot which direction was which, but it essentially has longer paddles on these activation switches. They are tied together, so you push this side down and the other side will go down also. And I forget which is which, but you push down for temporary and up for constant on. I can't believe I forgot that. But anyway, both ways on both sides. Similar on either side. So if you shoot it right-handed, it's going to react the same way as if you shot it left-handed, which I believe is truly ambidextrous and I prefer. Of course, this first generation is the same exact way in that they behave the same way on both sides. Putting it on, it's this thumb screw. You loosen it all the way, and when you push in on the thumb screw, it moves that clamp on the right hand side. To put it on the pistol, you just push that clamp and place it on. Once it's on, you screw it down. Quick, fast, and painless. To take it off, reverse the procedure. Push that button to move that clamp off and just pull it off. That is similar on the first and second generations. Now the pros of the Laser Devices units, especially on the first generation, I like the fit and the finish. As you may have seen when this was on the pistol, the first generation, you can see it molds right around the trigger guard and it puts the activation switches right where you would want them. The second generation, there's kind of a gap in there. It doesn't look as clean on the pistol, and I think that's mostly because Laser Devices wanted to make it a little bit more inexpensive, and it still serves the same function. They still put the activation levers right here close to where you want them to be, but fit and finish isn't as good. The Blast 2 is smaller, and I believe a lighter weight. Accessory options on Laser Devices stuff. There's a lot of accessory options out there, but they're pretty expensive. Like you can buy, for the first generations, you can buy the remote pressure pad. On the second generation, you have to replace the entire back part of it that's actually the battery cover. And the battery cover has the pressure pad attached to it. You can also change, for example, you can change the size of the flashlight head. They have a more compact version. It doesn't spread the light as well, but it's certainly smaller, and I think it looks better, but I like the head on this one for spreading light out a little bit further. And on the laser tack, on both of them, first and second generation, the advantage of the laser tack is it's essentially this unit without that laser right there, and you can swap out the head of it, and you can make it either a laser or a flashlight. And that's I think the laser is $125 accessory, as in you have to pay $125 for the laser attachment for the head of the light, and like I said, pretty expensive. But they're built very solid. I would certainly consider them more versatile than the UTL. I have no reason to say that other than just feeling them. You know, the UTL's polymer seemed to be a little bit not as strong as this, and this uses a lot of metal, where the UTL was almost exclusively plastic. I had threads on the UTL strip out fairly easily. So, cons of this: price, weight, size. If you get one of these, pay attention to this screw. It can come loose during firing, and if it does, it'll mar up your... That's what happened to mine. It popped off in the middle of firing back when I had first gotten it, and tore up the rails of the USP a little bit. So be mindful of, consider it like a suppressor. Always check that it's tightened down, because you don't want to have a baffle strike on your suppressor, and you don't want this thing to pop off during firing, because it weighs a lot and it'll mess up your rails. Now, aside from those things, you can buy an adapter. The adapter will hang down a little bit further down here. As a result, it will drop a lot of your optics. It'll drop your laser or whatever a little farther down than the designers had intended, so your activation switches may be a little bit lower than what you want. And that depends on what light you want to get. That depends on what adapter you want to use. And I know nothing about that because I haven't bought any adapters for the USP. That should cover about anything. If you have any questions, please let me know.